Oh my goodness. Okay. I think we on, y'all. I think we are on. Now listen, it's starting to thunderstorm here in this area. So hopefully we won't be cut off anytime soon. Listen, listen, listen. Welcome to week 5, HTU students. Welcome to week 5. Okay. This week we are talking about your inner strength, resiliency as a lifestyle. Resiliency as a lifestyle. So before I start this, I am going to just give people a couple of minutes to get in to see, because again, I had trouble kind of logging on. And so I'm assuming that other people may have trouble logging on, especially if they're in areas where there's thunder. You guys listen really careful. You can hear it. It's starting to thunder. Okay, it's starting to thunder. But listen, week 5, that means we are more than halfway through the ends of the 8 weeks course for the summer 2025 at HTU. And when I tell you this experience have been really amazing for me, it really has. And so I hope that by the time we get done with these next 3 weeks or so, that you guys can look back as well and say, you know what, I learned some things and I had an amazing time, because this is something that I'm doing on a broader spectrum, right? Teaching this course, because typically I would teach this course and maybe in a smaller group, but by me having it all open on here, on HTU, it allowed me to get as many people in and just see what happens. And so it allows me to kind of like, just see where I want to switch it up. So when I do start giving these courses to bigger groups, then I'll understand where I might have some shortfalls. And so I appreciate you guys for working with me. And so before we get into week 5, I want to talk about week 4. Now, also, I'm understanding that week 3 and 4 is not uploaded on YouTube. And at first, I thought it was just me until I went and until I received an email from one of the students saying that they're not able to see it. They see where it starts, but it doesn't play. And so I had looked into that, and I'm going to have to go back and rectify that problem. So you should see weeks 3 and 4 uploaded before tomorrow. Tomorrow being Thursday, June the 26th. I think it'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow will be June 26th. Yes. So you will see week 3 and 4 by end of the day tomorrow. However, you guys should have received your workbook and also the email to let us know exactly what weeks 3 and 4 was about, or week 4 was about. Did y'all hear that thunder? What week 4 was about. And so I want to touch bases on week 4, because I'm hoping that you guys were able to really get something from boundaries and backbone, protecting your peace. I was doing a segment today, a live segment, and just so happened that particular segment today um, was dealing with peace and things like that. And one of the things that I said is that your home should be where your peace starts. Okay. Your home, it should be where your peace starts. And the reason why I feel like this is something that I have to address, because listen, when I say, you will be amazed that people have this thing about being at their house, or feeling some kind of way. Uh-oh, let me turn this down. Or being at their house or just sitting at home too long. It's like they can't find peace. And then sometimes, I guess, depending on the house itself, I remember being in the military with people that did not want to go home. Right? They did not want to go home for whatever reason, whether it's because the kids were running around, or the spouse was whatever. But it was people that I served with that did not want to go home. And so for me, I say, listen, when it comes to peace, to talk about when we review week 4, your home should be the place in which it starts. Because if you realize that your house is very hectic and unsettling, and there's always chaos and just people coming in and out and a lot going on, or it's not as tidy as you want it to be, or you're trying to manage things, or it's just, maybe it's not what you have to get it to a place where you can find peace. And sometimes that means maybe starting with a small corner, right? Maybe you could start with a small corner, or maybe there's a closet that you're not using, that you can occupy that for like a peace of mind, a place that you can set up. For me, I have a spot. I have my garage. Now, granted, I'm a single woman. Okay, I'm a single woman, twice divorced. So I have my whole house to be whatever I want to be in it. However, because I keep my house ready for company at any given time, I go out in my garage. In my garage, I have like sections out there in which I have things that I do. And like I have one section, I have a sauna sitting in there. I have another section where I paint. Like I have all kind of paintings out there, you know. So I mean, I have another section where I just sit and meditate in. I have another section where I got my yoga mat sitting out where I can go out there and do yoga if I want to. So what I'm saying is that sometimes, even if you can't do the whole house, start with a section in your home to find where you can just go in and just really align yourself, just really realign yourself and get settled and get relaxed, right? And so when we talked about that for last week, that was one of the things that I wanted to discuss. And I hope that you guys got something out of that, especially with the homework when it talked about areas in your life that you know that you can improve on in terms of boundaries. And I would love to hear what some of you guys had to say about that, because I tell you, I can think of many areas in my life that I probably need more boundaries, right? But then it's almost like when I put boundaries in place, it's almost like there's caveat to things, right? So if I tell somebody, well, one of my boundaries is like, for example, loaning money to people. Okay, well, I can narrow it down to friend to family and say, well, I won't loan it to anybody that's not family. But then that's not true too, because if I have a friend that needs it, you know, and then it's like, okay, well, what kind of friend are we talking about? Let's define the friend. Are we talking about a friend that I've known for many years that we, you know, like it's like, so I have to have to do it, right? Because I just believe in, you know, like I know when it's when. I know when I'm being taken advantage of, and I know when to say enough is enough. And so that's one thing about me. I'm not gonna let people misuse me in any kind of way. And when I realize or when I think that I am, I'm gonna, hey, bring attention to it. And if it doesn't get resolved, then listen, I'm out. I cut ties just like that. Listen, because I will not let anybody disrespect me, disrespect my boundaries, because disrespecting my boundaries is the same as disrespecting me. So I hope that you guys were actually able to look in that and see in your life where are some areas that you really should probably tighten up on. Okay, and it's starting to really pour down outside. Listen, this is my kind of weather, and it's really weird because the sun is shining as well. Okay, but anyway, let's get into week 5. Week 5, your inner strength resiliency as a lifestyle, right? And the objective for this week is reframe hardship into strength and design resiliency as a way of life. One thing about being resilient is that people feel that being resilient means that it has to look a certain way. You have to, you know, like for example, being resilient means that you're not supposed to show weakness. You can't cry. You can't do any of that. That's not resilient. That's not what resiliency means. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you something. If that's what it meant, I would not be sitting here teaching this class with years and years of experiences in the areas of resiliency. And I'm resiliency trained. And I have a degree, many degrees, right? And so, because why? Because I cry all the time. I cry all the time. Right. And I just remember, even as a young girl, like if an adult yelled at me or said something to me and I was like, they hurt my feelings, I would cry. And yes, I would cry. Now, because when it came to kids, it wasn't necessarily the same way. Like I wasn't affected by kids because I can handle them, you know, but only with adults because I saw them as authoritative figures regardless of who they were. To me, an adult, my mom raised me to respect adults, so for me, anytime an adult, you know, showed disdain or was upset with me or yelled at me, like a teacher or whatever, I would cry, you know. And so when I became a soldier at the age of 18, that was something that I had to work on because I didn't want people to see me cry because they thought it was a sign of weakness. But then I realized that, you know what? I didn't know how to control that. Okay. I didn't know how to control it. Luckily for me, though, y'all know I was raised in the streets of Detroit. Okay. I was raised in the streets of Detroit. So I was always on ready. I was always on ready with the kids in the streets and with the people in the army. Okay. So when it came to that, I didn't have to worry about nobody because I would get mad and cry, or I would get whatever and cry, whatever it was, I would cry. And so I say that to you because please do not think that resiliency is being tough, or resiliency is not showing tears, or resiliency is, you know, I can't take a rest because if I relax and it doesn't look like I want it, I'm not being hungry enough for what I want. That is not what resiliency is. Resiliency is just literally when you are in a position that something happens and you have to recover from your normal activities in life or the normal things you do. Is how do you get up from that and reflect and keep pushing forward? That is resiliency. And let me tell you, I can tell you that as a twice divorced woman, oh honey, those are different lives in itself. But as a twice divorced woman, one thing that I had to do was have resiliency. And I remember that, and it didn't have to be something as devastating as that, but for me, that was one of the most those are the most devastating things I went through in my life, because it was heartbreaking. I felt some kind of way about you don't want to divorce, right? But then after that, I had to figure out how was I going to continue certain things as a single woman, right? Now, one thing about it is that with my first divorce, things were a little bit different because I was the breadwinner in that relationship. Like literally, I made the majority of the money. But at the same time, we were still young, so we didn't have a lot. Well, by the time we divorced, I was already dating my second husband, and we dated for 4 years, and then we got married. And so I didn't really have that gap of just having to like do a lot of things by myself in the beginning, right? Because although we were dating, if it was something that I needed from my he became my fiance, it wasn't an issue. So I didn't feel as alone because now I was divorced from my first husband. I had a kid. Whereas that when I was with my first husband, when he and I started dating, I didn't have a kid. So things were a little different. So when my second husband and I divorced, that was something that I really had to dig deep, because at that point we were making six figures, um, over $100,000 a piece, right? We were making over that a year, a piece before by the time we divorced, right? We were both in the military, we were both, doing really well. And so it's like, okay, how do I maintain? How do I don't? So I didn't know how that was going to happen. And we divorced in 2010, and it's been 15 years. And so I didn't know how I was going to do it. And so I literally had to figure out how to eat, because not only did I have my two children, because now with him I had a second son, I also had my now daughter, my adopted daughter. And then I also had my mom in the beginning as someone who was I was seeing about or providing for, right, in my home. And so here I was, now half of my income was being cut because I'm divorcing. What am I going to do? And so because I wasn't used to really living from like watching every penny. But when I realized that I didn't have that support or that person to catch me if I fall, I had to say, okay, Yashika, what are you doing? And so that was one of the times in my life where I had to really be resilient. And so what did it teach me from that thing? Like, what did I learn from those divorces? I know for a fact that in my first divorce, my first marriage, there were things that I learned from that marriage that I knew that I would never put myself in again. And so when my second marriage came, those were things that I made sure I had covered. And my finances was very much one of them. I was never going to put myself in a position where my finances was ever compromised when it came to being in a relationship in a marriage, right? Because if you ever get out of that marriage, you have to recover. And that was something that sometimes is not as easy. And luckily for me, with my first marriage, we were young. There were a lot of things that hadn't been established. And so by the time my second marriage came, I understood there were just certain things that I needed to take care of prior to, right, to make sure that I covered myself. And we ended up divorcing. And so I'm glad that I was able to have things in place because I had my children, right? I had my children. And so now I sit here as the only person in my family, in my household, that pays all the bills. And so, and not only that, but I still have those same people just about that I have to see about, right? And so I had to be resilient. What did I learn from those things? How did I learn? What did I learn when the marriage ended, right? What did I learn in terms of taking care of my business? What did I learn in terms of pouring into myself? What did I learn in terms of making sure that I don't stress myself out? Because when you're out here doing everything yourself, you will forget it, especially if you are going through a divorce when you're used to having two people in a household and you gotta, and then now it's one. Now you become the person that takes them to their sports, the person that goes to school counselings, the person that cooks, the person that cleans, the person that goes to grocery shopping, the person that goes shopping, the person that makes sure they get their doctor's appointments. all these things. And so there was things that I had to put into place. And so as they got older and I was able to put things in place and learn from my previous, right? Because now that my kids are older, I had never experienced these things before, right? Because here I was getting older, they were getting older, and I had never been in a position like this before. However, the things that I had been through, right, with the first divorce, or better yet, when I joined the military, or better yet, when I chose to do these things, different things in life, those things build up my resiliency because why I knew that I can do anything I put my mind to because I had seen myself perform like that. I trusted me more than anybody. I trusted me more than I trust anybody. I depend on me more than I depend on anybody, right? I'm the one who disappoints me, not anybody else. If there's something that goes on, I say to myself, Yashika, what part did I play in it? What could I have done differently? Because I can't control other people. And that's one of the things that resiliency is, right? It's like you're saying, if I don't handle everything myself, I failed. No, you did not. Because you have to also, during this time of resiliency, you have to learn to give yourself grace, right? Because we're all human, right? Right? We're all human. But resiliency should be part of your lifestyle. Resiliency should not be because something happened or you chose to take a knee or you chose to relax, you're feeling guilty. No. It's saying that I know what I need. Why? Because I understand that I listen, I've been here before. This is I've been here before and I've survived, right? I've been here before and I've made it through the storm. Why? Because I know my level of resiliency. Now, sometimes during this resiliency process, there will be things that you've never done. But that's when you pick your foot up and you put one in front of the other. That's it. You pick it up and you put one in front of the other. Because what I realized about this life and being self actualized, you have to be the one to decide how you're going to live your life. You have to want to be the one to decide what parameters you put in place, what boundaries you put in place, how resilient you are, how strong you are, how mentally tough you are. You decide that. Nobody else. Nobody else can tell you, well, don't do that. If I was you, I wouldn't do that. Don't you listen to them? Don't you listen to them? Okay? Resiliency tells you that I can do all things. And if I don't do it the right way the first time, whatever the right way may be, then that's all right. I get to shake it off, get up, and now I'm stronger. And so now when I go back at it again, I'm a little bit more wiser. That's what resiliency is. What lesson did I learn from that so that now I'm wiser than I was before? That's what resiliency is. That's how you incorporate resiliency in your lifestyle. You know, people ask me, I talked about my marriages. People ask me, will I ever get married again? You doggone right. You doggone right. Because the way I see life is we only get one shot at this thing called life. That's it. So for those two husbands that I was married to, which each one of those, I had a beautiful king with each one of those, honey. So I already know I ain't never having no more babies. So purpose served. Those two men served their purpose in life. Now it's time for me to get my king because I gave each of those men their kings, right? Their princes, shall I say, their prince, shall I say. I gave each one of those men their prince because they were my boys are named after their fathers and their grandfathers, right? So will I get married again? Absolutely, because I believe that those purposes were served. Because why? Going forward, I know who I am as a wife. I know who I am as a woman, as a lady, as a human, as a child of God, of all those things. Why? Because resiliency have taught me these things. Resiliency has taught me that I can do anything that I put my mind to. And that's why I challenge you to make sure that you incorporate resiliency every day in your life and incorporate it as a lifestyle as you go through this whole self actualization. Okay. Getting to or being self actualized because this is part of it. Now, I was about to say something. I am doing a series on Facebook as well as I drop it the video here on YouTube every day is getting to self actualization. And that is now that's going to be a series. It's going to be a 45-day series that you are getting to self actualization. And so I encourage you guys, whoever watching this video, if you feel like you need more on this, then make sure you follow me over on Facebook and also follow me here on YouTube so that you can see when I post videos, but for the next 45 days, and they're going to be on repeat, honey. Those videos are going to be on repeat, all right? And so that's just more self actualization. And so, anyway, and today, one other thing I want to talk about when we talk about resiliency, right, is brown and black communities. Okay. For whatever reason, in brown and black communities, we have this thing that when it comes to being superwoman, superman, right? That it's like a badge of honor. Okay. That's not a badge of honor. What I'm saying to you is that are you doing amazing things? Absolutely. But it's not something that you can keep on forever. And for you to be able to be self actualized, you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. In other words, what you can do, what you can't do, and be okay with what you can't do. Hire somebody for it. Do whatever you got to do. You do not have to be Superman or Superwoman, right? That is not what resiliency look like. Okay. Now, if you are able to do a lot of things, then hurrah. You know what I'm saying? Hurrah, hooray, congratulations, congratulations. All right. But what I know at this old mature age of 52, you don't have to do everything. Okay. It's for what? Do what you can. For everything else, you find somebody else to do it. Get somebody else to do it. Okay. Now, that's what resiliency look like. Saying, you know what, hey, I need help. Or better yet, you know what, I'll be back. I can't do this right now. I'll be back because I know me. Or better yet, you know what? I've been here before, so I know what to do. Resiliency look all kind of ways. There's no one way that it has to look. However, it needs to be healthy. Resiliency is not breaking your back, doing everything, captain saving whoever, walking around with a big old S on your chest. That is not what resiliency look like. Holding your tears, not want to saying that I failed, or not want to say, hey, I need help. That is not resiliency. That's not resiliency. Okay. So now for this week, week 5, for the homework, I need you to write down a time where you overcame something and you thought you would break, right? And what did you learn during this time? And it doesn't have to be like, listen, you can go as deep as you want to or as surface level as you desire. It's up to you, right? But I know for me that, you know, when it comes to resiliency, yes, I think those were the most challenging times in my life, my adult life, is when I got divorced those 2 times. You know what I mean? Because I really had to say, okay, how do I be 2 people while I'm just one person, right? Because that's what my children were used to having, you know. And so I had to find out what worked for me. And so everybody is different. Everybody is different. In the very beginning, I was lucky that I had my mom with me. And so when my kids, you know, as my kids got older or whatever, she was able to move out and it was good for me. And so now it's just my daughter and I. And so everything is everything. She's 11 now and everything is peachy, right? But I know that that time in my life, I had to be everything and I had to dig deep. But what I also know is that it prepared me for so many things because I didn't know. I think my second divorce, because of my first divorce, let me know that I could get through that. However, the divorce was one thing, but being everything to everybody else was a whole nother level, right? It was a whole nother level and layer of once you divorce. Okay. Cause like I said, it's different when I divorced my first husband, I had 1 kid. The second husband, I had 2 excuse me, I had 2 kids and then I had turned around and got another kid and then my mom. So things looked different. So for you, you can go as deep as you want to or surface level. It's up to you. But just think about a time that you had to really, really be resilient. And what did you learn from that? Okay. What did you learn from that? And because no matter how devastating that time was for you, trust me, there were lessons in it. There were more lessons in it than you probably realize. Because what I do know is that everything is connected. And when you go through something in life, it's preparing you for something bigger. I believe that. I believe that. And nobody's going to tell me anything different. Okay. Well, anyway, also for the homework, there's a bonus reflection. This is where you're still, you know, this says, what are you still carrying that helped you survive but no longer serves you? Like, what about that? And I think for me, one of the things that I did as a younger woman was trying to be a superwoman. I am guilty of that, honey. Trying to be a superwoman because I saw the women in my family be that. But what I didn't realize is that they had a different life than me, right? There weren't too many women in my life that I grew up with that had jobs and families, right? For me, I was doing it for the first time, and my job was very demanding being a soldier. So there was nobody but I wanted to be like, you know what? I don't want to sit at home. I don't want to sit at home. I want to be able to have a family and have my career. And you can do it, but you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. You got to know when to bring somebody in and when to say, you know what, I got to take a beat or whatever. If not, hey. But anyway, I hope that this week 5 has been very much informative for you. And listen, I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you got going on. If you have any questions, you can put them below on this video. If not, you can email me. All you guys have my email directly. You can email me. And I will be dropping videos 3 and 4 before the end of tomorrow, Thursday, tomorrow, the 26th of June. All right. And I hope this has been amazing for you all, as it's been for me. And I will see you guys in week 6. Bye.